Hi, I'm Ramesh Ranjan, the co-founder and the CEO of Global HR Community, and I welcome you to this Global HR Community GHRC talk show. As part of this initiative, we are featuring people managers and thought leaders who have contributed to the development of people management in the society. But before that, little introduction to the GHRC. The Global HR Community is a platform that brings together people managers, business leaders, HR professionals, entrepreneurs, academicians, and students to promote excellence through people in individuals, at the workplace, and in the society at large through our guiding principles of connect, learn, and grow. As part of our GHRC initiative, as I've said before, we have launched this HR Guru series where we would like to showcase our HR thought leaders from the Indian subcontinent who have contributed to the development of HRD in India and globally. Privilege and honor to have with us Dr. T.V. Rao, who is popularly known as the father of Indian HRD, along with Dr. Uday Pareek. He has been a professor at the Indian Institute of Management since 1973 and has long association with the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Along with late Dr. Uday Pareek, Dr. T.V. Rao pioneered the concept of HRD in India with their pioneering initiative at L&T, Larsen Toubro, where they introduced the concept of performance appraisal. He was also instrumental, along with Dr. late Uday Pareek, in starting the National HRD Network and also co-founded the Academy of Human Resources Development in India and was the guiding president of Indian Society of Applied Sciences and Behavior. Dr. Rao is also known for having introduced the concept of 360-degree feedback in the mid 1980s as part of the leadership development process. In an age today when we talk about data science and analytics, way back in the 80s, Dr. Rao was the first who espoused the cause of using data and came up with this HR Audit and Scorecard and also published book in this regard, which is one of the best sellers even till date. He has to his credit over 60 publications and on topics of HRD, organizational behavior, leadership, and training and development. Some of his notable books are HRD Audit, Evaluating the Human Resource Functions for Business Improvement, and 360-degree Feedback and Performance Management Systems. He has been honored and recognized, and if I were to read through all, it would probably take a few hours. But notable among his recognitions are the Asia Pacific Professional of the Year 2019, awarded by the Asia Pacific Federation of HRM Associations in Taipei, Taiwan. Lifetime Achievement Award conferred by the Indian Academy of Management. The Ravi Mathai Fellow, honored by the Association of Indian Management Schools for his contribution to management education. Currently, Dr. Rao, along with his daughter, run the TV Rao Learning Systems, where he is passing some of his experiences and wisdom in developing future leaders in the country. Dr. Rao's enduring contributions have profoundly shaped the way HR took shape in India and continues to guide us as to how to manage the people at the workplace. Dr. Rao, thank you very much for agreeing to be on this show. It's an honor and privilege, and also thank you for taking your time off your busy schedule.
Very nice of you, Ramesh, for giving such a wonderful introduction. I think I never started as a HR professional. My career started as a science graduate in mathematics, physics, and chemistry from Loyola College, Vijayawada. Then I moved on to, due to some guidance given by the principal there, I was interested in MSc chemistry, but he suggested that I spend a couple of years before I go for MSc. Ended up in education, then in psychology, topped the Osmania University, did my B.Ed at Mysore, and ultimately landed up in via Andhra University, landed up with the National Institute of Health Administration and Education. Life is a series of points. They get connected without your realizing where you are headed to quite often. So I never knew that I'm going to be landing up the way I landed up. So certainly when I look back, I think all the points get connected and give this meaning of human resource development, HRD. So we invented HRD as a function in Larsen and Toubro in the year 1974. And in those days, we didn't think that it is going to be that big. It was merely an assignment in which we both Uday Pareek and I were called to examine the already innovative appraisal system. And while revising it and talking to managers, we came up with an idea that people want to be happy at work and people want to integrate their work with life. And that is where we conceptualized the HRD system and so on. After that, I think a lot of things have happened about which we can talk about during our conversation. But that's the way it began.
Dr. Rao, let's talk about the pioneering of HRD in India. In 1974, you and late Dr. Uday Pareek introduced a revolutionary HRD concept called the HRD Framework and the concept of performance appraisal at the Larsen Toubro in India. This was a landmark moment that shaped the trajectory of HR in India. My question to you would, what inspired you to embark on this journey of pioneering HRD in India, and how did you convince organizations to embrace this new concept at that time?
Well, actually, in 1974, when we started as a consulting project to review the already well established performance appraisal system in Larsen and Toubro. In any consulting assignment, our strategy of starting the assignment is by talking to the people who matter. So in L&T, we both Uday Pareek and I interviewed a large number of managers, randomly selected from different levels. Of all of them, I still remember interviewing A.M. Naik, who in those days was a middle level or young manager, very imposing personality, and I remember his criticism of the appraisal system and suggestions for making a new system. Anyway, when we examined a large number of managers and we put all our notes together, Uday Pareek and I, in those days, remember I was a very young fellow, 1974, I would have been less than 30 years of age. Uday Pareek was about 50 in age. He was 1925 born, I am 46 born. We were putting in Taj Hotel, putting all our notes together. And what came out from our notes is that employees are saying, all the employees, largely managerial staff, are saying that do not look at appraisal merely as an appraisal system. Look at appraisal as a part of life, because we come here to perform and we have to do a good job. We would like to be told in the beginning of the year what are the expectations of the organization and should be guided all through the year to perform and should be made happy to perform, which means I think they said that we would like the personnel department, at the time this was done by the personnel department, to create a climate where we build our competencies all the time and we also feel happy to build our competencies and perform, and also create a culture. So when we put these things together, it came very clear that performance appraisal is not merely an appraisal. It should lead to planning of performance. It should lead to feedback and counseling. In those days, we used the term counseling. Later, it became coaching, and also plan for career planning and development, and give feedback, and also build link it with training and development, and maintain information. And not only that, you look at us in terms of performance, look at the entire unit, which means organization development. So we identified six systems and we said the personnel department As it exists today, the kind of image they had in 1974 will not be the right kind of a department to handle this. That's when we were, now I mentioned Taj Hotel because I still remember staying in old Taj, Uday and I putting our notes together and coming to the conclusion we should create a new department. And this can be called as Human Resource Development Department. And that is where I think the Namkaran came
Right.
in the hotel, resulted in a consulting report, and we presented the report to L&T board. It went to the board. Hawk Larsen was still around. He attended the board meeting, and when they listened to what we have said, I think L&T was very, very positive, professional in their. They in toto agreed our recommendations, and they said, "Let's go ahead and implement." So HRD, that is the evolution of HRD. Those that time we didn't think that it is going to be a movement, it is going to be a big concept, it's going to be a landmark kind of a thing. So that time we were only doing, we thought for it is good for L&T, but then it spread to other places.
I remember, sir, I used to work for ITI Limited, and I was a young management trainee,
Yeah,
and we had initiated this concept of organization development as part of OD intervention. We had engaged you, Dr. Uday Pareek, and KS Murthy to revamp our HR systems and the introduction of performance appraisals. And that was a time when mostly the ACRs, the annual
annual
confidential
conference
reviews,
report, right?
were in practice.
Yeah,
And it took a lot of effort. And thanks to your interventions, your influence, and your selling the concept, that we were able to convince the managers that employees do have a role to play in their performance, and they have to set their objectives. They also have a role to play in terms of giving their feedback rather than just being a one-way feedback systems.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for having pioneered that concept, which really was a game changer for us in many parts of this world. So let's talk about your initiative of starting the National HRD Network and also setting up of the Academy of HRD. You played a very pivotal role along with Dr. Uday Pareek in founding these two institutions, which actually became a platform for bringing together all the HR professionals nationwide, and also for shaping the future of HR and also advancing the HR practices in India. My question to you was, what was the vision behind creating these organizations, and how did you see them contributing to the professional development and promotion of HR in India?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question. You have raised the issue about starting conceptualizing National HRD Network, which happened in 1985. Uh, March 2 was the day when it was conceptualized, at least in my mind and in the minds of a few of us. So 1975 to 85, 10 years. I must mention some highlights of what happened in these 10 years, which is the source behind National HRD Network. The 75 report was integrated HRD system in L&T with 6 subsystems. L&T, we mentioned to L&T that you cannot treat this HRD subsystem in isolation. You have to relook at your entire personnel function. And L&T wanted Uday and me to do that, and we submitted a second report, where we redesigned the personnel function as HR function, human resource function. And there I think we had lots of interesting kind of things. I'll skip that, but the most important thing we outlined was we gave a very huge role for the HR function, not HRD only, HR function, which includes integrating the individual with the organization, enriching the role, helping people to empower themselves, helping the departments to be empowered, also balancing specialization and general kind of a lot of things which are mentioned in our report. So to me, as we went through, it became almost a philosophy. Uday Pareek went round because he was a senior consultant, respected professor in IIM Ahmedabad. Many companies, including ICI, ITI, and others started inviting him. Uday, wherever he went, he started promoting this. One of them is State Bank of India. They implemented HRD.
Right.
Then he mentioned it to Bharat at Movers as a part of their reorganization. Bharat at Movers invited me to spend a year. I came to Bangalore at the time and was general manager HRD.
Oh,
and implemented the HRD system in those days. So it is these three, four experiences which made me believe that every organization requires a HR function, because that is the only way to build in a planned way capabilities, in a planned way increase motivation, and in a planned way also to build the culture. So, in fact, I wrote an article called "Is HRD an old wine in a new bottle?" to say that it is different than personnel. Uday wrote an article called "Personal Function in Search of a Soul." For him, HRD is the soul. So, all these led us to think that HR is a philosophy, is a value, and that is when I was invited by XLRI to be L&T professor there. I agreed on condition I'll start a center for HRD. So I went there to set up the Center for HRD, but my colleague at IIM Ahmedabad, Ravi Mathai, who was the first
right.
full-time director of IIM Ahmedabad, he died. And when he died, I felt that I had an obligation to get back to IIM and to start a rural development project. Now, actually, the rural development project is again a HR project in implementing. We never called it HR. It's linking education with development, which is nothing but HR.
Right.
In organizations, linking productivity with human endeavor, whereas in society, you call linking education with development of rural. So, in my mind, these are all linked. It's all HR philosophy. Whether you work in government, work in
Right.
rural areas, education, and so on. So, 1975, as I was leaving, 85, I was leaving back to IIM. We had a national seminar, and this question was in my mind: how do I continue the work I started in XLRI? Fortunately for me, the person who was working with me, one Father E. Abraham, he's a Jesuit, and he was my research associate. He registered for PhD in Gujarat University. He is the only other person. So the entire center virtually. Nowadays we talk of work from home. I think those days the center was working from Ahmedabad, but it was located in Jamshedpur. So we started, therefore, promoting the HR philosophy, and his PhD happens to be on HRD. So all these things put together gave birth to this idea that we must continue the work that we started in HRD, in L&T, State Bank of India, Bharat Earth Movers, ITI, anywhere we talked of, and the Center for HRD at XLRI, and so on. So how do we do that? So the national symposium we had, where we had about 40 people coming from different parts of the country, at the end of sharing our experiences, we decided that we should continue to share. That sowed the seed for starting of National HRD Network. I raised a question. I remember it was Sirak Hotel, which doesn't exist today. In I think it is just opposite to Taj in Bandra. In Sirak Hotel, we had this conference. On the last day, I said, now XLRI and L&T conducted the national seminar. Tomorrow, if they are not going to be there, should we only learn if they are there? Can we not learn by ourselves? I raised this question. When people said, no, we should continue to learn. Then I said, why do we have to learn only 40 of us? Why don't we get people? Can we learn from each other in different cities where we are? Said, yes, we should learn. Can you go back and therefore start a movement? So in Bangalore, we had a set of people, one K.S. Rao and somebody else volunteered. In Chennai, Chandrasekhar and PVR Murthy volunteered. Later, one Sambamurthy from State Bank of India joined. In Delhi, P.K. Sarangi, Anil Sachdeva and others volunteered. In Ahmedabad, I think Anil Kandelwal, K.K. Verma and me, we were there. So this is how I think the seed for HRD network was sown. It is to continue HR as a philosophy, to disseminate the practice, and to make many people educated with this. That is the secret behind the National HRD Network formation. So it took another year to get it registered in Ahmedabad. It's registered in IIM wing number 15 when it was registered.
Right.
So it is IIM that facilitated this. Okay. XLRI lent their own hand. Abraham and I were the main drivers, but there were a large number of people who were all the time with us emotionally. Long story.
No, I've been privileged to be part of the NHRD
I know,
network.
yeah, you were a
I've been a vice president and also general secretary, but none of us knew this background, and that's one of the reasons why today I'm trying to record the nostalgic memories of some of our seniors and trying to document them so that everybody is able to understand this.
Yeah,
And
that's very
we're very
nice.
proud of what you started, sir. Today we've got more than 25 chapters across India and global. I think we've got one in Dubai and one in Singapore. And
Yeah,
we've
it
got
reached
more than
50 now.
50
Yeah,
chapters, sorry. And more than about 25,000 professionals have
right.
been enlisted. And it's really a very powerful movement. And I'm also very happy to be part of that particular initiative.
Yeah, that's very nice.
So let's delve into some of your notable works that you have done in your career. First among them, or one of among them, has been your development of 360-degree feedback, which, as we understand, you've been the pioneer in the mid 90s. You developed the developing leadership through feedback by known people, a methodology which you implemented at IIM Ahmedabad. This became the precursor to the global adopted 360-degree program. My question to you would be, what drove you to create this methodology, and how do you see its relevance in leadership development continuing even today?
You know, when I started teaching at IIM Ahmedabad, both Uday Pareek, myself, and a large number of other OB faculty, we would teach personal and interpersonal dynamics, team building, organization development, and so on. In most of our workshops or sessions, we use it to administer a lot of tests. One of them is 5B, which is very popular, and another is locus of control,
Right.
an interpersonal trust inventory. So many of those tests, and normally we give the test, and at the end of it, we score them up and give feedback to the participants. I'm sure even today many
Yeah.
people use that. So whenever I gave, participants appreciated. In fact, we got very good rank ratings of our sessions. At the end of the session, some other people will say, Professor, you gave us a test and you put us a nice framework and gave us the feedback. But sir, I want to know what other people think about me.
Right.
So this is one. People were eager to know how they made impact on other people, whether their perceptions are in tune with the perceptions of others. Number one. And number two, I became a member of the Indian Society for Applied Behavioral Science. ISAPS promotes a T group training,
Yes.
which is sensitivity training. Nowadays, it is called Personal Growth Lab, Human Process Lab, various names are there. It was initiated by Kurt Levin in early 40s in USA. Led to establishment of NTL, National Training Laboratories, which use it to run programs in Bethel. Now, in this, the methodology is if you want to grow, it is not enough to keep reflecting about yourself. Enrich your reflections with feedback from other people.
Right.
And other people who interact with you are hesitant to often give you the feedback. So work in stranger groups. Collect a group of strangers, spend about a week with them. At the end of it, you will discover, ask them feedback, you will get to know what your real personality is, unexplored personality, the way you impacted. That became the T group training. So we were running a number of these programs, including IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Calcutta. All of these institutions were running these programs. So one day, the question came to my mind: why do you go to most of these programs are in five-star hotels? So about 8 to 10 strangers sit together. The trainer is only acting like a mirror, helping each one to learn from each other. They didn't know before they assembled anything about each other, and from day one they start sharing their impact, and it required a week for you to discover something you did not know, how you appear to others. Then I raised this question that you are working with a large number of people. You have your boss, you have your colleagues, you have your juniors whom you supervise, and you have family members, you have your customers. You are interacting with a whole lot of people, and you don't trust them. You have to go to strangers to learn about yourself. No, I must. The only thing ISAP says is because known people are afraid of giving you feedback on your face. So then I said, how do I make sure that known people can give feedback if I can take out the fear element from them? That is where anonymous feedback,
Right.
and you have to make sure that it is totally unidentified and on a meaningful. So I put these two together. There are questionnaires which you have to use. People are willing to learn about themselves, but they also want others to
Feedback.
say. So, using the questionnaires, sending it to known people, assuring anonymity, And anonymity is assured when you don't give individualized feedback. 10 people rated you, average, this is what on average these people think about you. And this is the highest score, lowest score. Even we don't know who has given you the highest score, who has given you the lowest score. It doesn't matter who has given you highest or lowest. It is for you to discover whether the highest is true or lowest is true, under what circumstances you appear to be like this, and so on. So that is what we started. And the first program I ran in IIM Ahmedabad, as soon as I returned from XLRI, I mentioned this idea to my colleagues in OV area in IIM. There were some reservations because it required a lot of homework to be done.
Right.
But finally they agreed. So Khandwala, Pradeep Khandwala, myself, one JP Singh, and Professor Ram Narayan, who is now with ISB, all four of us therefore launched this program. And it was a big success. We announced it 3 months before, and people had to send the questionnaire, the mail IDs. In those days, there were no mail IDs. They were only we put paste the address of each our address
Post.
and send to everyone. We ask them to send it to them and say nowhere you have to write your name. You only have to mail it to TV Rao. That is what it is. So later, 5 years later, we discovered this methodology was branded as 360 in US. We did not know that this is going to be, and in fact, India is not good at. Even I must mention a great work done by my one-time colleague C.K. Prahlad. His entire core competencies concept was evolved in Ahmedabad, but Ahmedabad is not good at branding.
Recognizing.
Ahmedabad never accepted this because they left for individuals to brand. So in US, they are very good at branding and putting a concept and so on. So when we discovered whatever we are doing for the last 5 years is called 360, I caught on to this and I popularized 360. But actually, the methodology is our own. So that is the story, and I feel quite proud that we have done it. And even till today, I feel quite happy about the methodology, and we maintain the methodology pure. There are many people who have meddled with this, and I don't think they are doing the right thing. So I feel, and we have written books about it, the power of 360 and things
Right.
like that.
For a long period of time, we were being assessed based with just one feedback, that is a manager.
Yes,
But this concept of 360-degree feedback, multi-rate of feedback system,
absolutely. Yeah.
which you talked about, I think even till early 2000, many organizations still didn't have 360-degree feedback. But now, of course, with the concept of people-centric organizations and customer-focused organization, this concept of 360 feedback is a very powerful tool when it comes to personal and leadership development. Thank you, sir, for again one of the pioneering initiatives that you introduced in this world, and in fact later became a global phenomenon. Now, taking forward from this, another initiative of yours which you started. Today, we all swear by data science and analytics, but you had the wisdom way back in the 1990s to talk about HR audit and the HRD scorecard. You have been transformative in terms of evaluating and enhancing HR's role in organization success. In fact, these tools have set the benchmark for evaluating HR effectiveness and contributions to the impact on the business overall. My question to you was, what gaps in HR practices were you addressing when you introduced these frameworks, and how have they been embraced by organizations?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question and very good question. I think this HR audit is nothing but evaluating against certain standards. If you really look at the finance and accounting profession, you have set of principles, you have standards, you have ratios, and then you evaluate. Whereas in HR, you may not have such very well set kind of standards. But by 1990, I think we have evolved HRD in such a way that there are reasonably accepted standards. We know what leads to what, whether it is recruitment or appraisal, manpower planning, or training and development, any of those. But we found many people changed the title of their department from personal to HRD, and they were not doing the right things, many people. So we felt that it is very important if somebody simply uses the term I have a HRD, which really could mean human resource development or human resource department. So many people are using to mean HRD as department. And with the same department, they were doing the same old things in the same old way. creating a lot of dissatisfaction. So in a way, the dissatisfaction we saw in L&T in 1974 with appraisal continued for even later 15, 20 years, because all that the company did was only change of the name and so on. That is when we came up with the concept that if you are really meaning HRD, if you are very genuine about it, I think we'll have to do an audit of your HR. Are you anywhere near what we have originally envisaged?
Right.
By the time we have enough books, enough principles, and so on. So we conceptualized HRD audit to mean audit each of the systems. Every system has a purpose, interlinkages, components, a structure, a theory, and so on. Are you following this? So HRD audit is systems audit. But we added to this, it is not enough to audit systems. Do you have competencies of people to manage the system? Which means HR people, are they competent enough? By the time we have identified a set of competencies that are required to be a good HRD manager. And we also said it is not enough to have HRD competencies. That is where 360 comes into picture. Our 360 experience indicated that the top manager style, you may have a great HR department, but if the top level manager is bureaucratic, coercive, and nowadays we also use the term, he can create very negative vibes and so on. If that is so, then the entire HRD becomes valueless. So we said competencies means the styles of top level management. We also said competency means learning attitude of line managers. So we conceptualized HRD audit to mean systems audit, competency audit. Then as we started HRD is competency, commitment, culture building, culture audit. By the time Father Abraham did a very interesting study. His research study from XLRI indicated that some companies who have excellent HR systems are linked to financial outcomes. But some companies which didn't have good HR systems but had HR climate also are linked to financial performance. So we discovered you can get financial performance either through systems route or through culture route. And we also discovered not all HR systems result in culture. And it is possible to have good culture without HR systems.
Right.
So we didn't want to miss this out. So we introduced a third pillar, what we call as culture audit. Then the fourth pillar was automatic alignment. That is how we created a much later 2,500 points. But audit is this. In fact, I said that you can, at that point of time, we assign a scorecard to you.
Right.
And HRD audit, when my book was written, 1996, I put there. I actually proposed it to the to Sage Publications to call it HRD Scorecard, but they preferred it audit.
Right.
And put it subtitle HR Scorecard. And I think thanks to Dave Ulrich later wrote
Right.
HR
HR
Scorecard,
scorecard, I know.
and the scorecard became very
Very popular.
popular to. So that is the story of HR audit. It is to assess whether, in the name of HRD, are you doing right things, and where do you stand? Are you mature? Do you have mature systems? Do you have competent people? Are you building the right culture, and so on? So that's a long story, long answer to your question.
So it's another instance of an Indian inventing it and then the Westerner perfecting it and branding it and selling it, right?
Yeah, well, that is very nice.
Scorecard from
That is, I
you
think,
into
but
Dave Ulrich's. And
unfortunately, our Indian books are not read in other countries, whereas we read a lot of them.
right.
So that is why when Sage closed the Indian publications, I made sure that our HRD audit is now published in UK.
Right.
So it's just coming out, just come out by Routledge Publishers, Taylor and Francis. So I'm sure it will be available across the globe now.
Right. So you've been a voracious reader and also an author and writer. You've authored over 60 books that have influenced HR thoughts and practices not only in India but globally, from HR audit to 360-degree feedback, performance management systems, and others. My question to you would be, what role has writing played in shaping your journey as a thought leader, and which of your works do you feel has made the most significant impact?
Well, I think I'm not sure about the second question, but that is so nice of you to ask this question. Uh, I think if I look back, uh, these books explain my life. Actually, to me, each book has a story. It is like making a film.
Okay.
Every book has a story. Some of them are much more impactful than others, I assume. Out of the 60 and odd books, I think about a dozen of them are all my single author books. And I feel very proud of them, whether it is HRD Audit, HRD Missionary, HRD Scorecard 2500, Future of HRD, or Performance Appraisal, which is my own book,
Right.
Readings in HRD. All these 360 feedback, managers who make a difference. These are all my single author books, and I'm very proud. I think each one of them made some impact or the other. Uh, there are at least another 14 books which I co-authored with Uday.
Okay.
I also consider them as great books. Starting with, we jointly did one on Handbook of Entrepreneurship, then we did one on instruments, HRD instruments, and we did one on designing and managing HR systems, which is our entire kind of a
Wow.
work, and we did one on Handbook for trainers of education management. Whole lot of books with Uday, and I think I'm also very proud of them. The remaining books are all, some of them are edited with HRD Network. That will be about seven, six, seven of them.
Right.
These are all co-edited books. I think I would leave it for HRD Network. I wish they popularized these, but unfortunately they didn't do enough of it. Then about six, seven books are done with TVRLS. My colleagues, either Nandini Chawla or Gopal Mahapatra or Raju Rao. I think these are three of my co-authors, co-editors. These are all we are again very proud of them because these were all meaningful around 360 feedback, assessment centers, performance management, and so on. And then a number of others. There are sporadic books. Each one of them again has a story. Just to mention a few, I don't know how much time you have.
We
I
have
can
time.
keep
We
on.
can.
Okay, if you have time. The first book I have co-authored with one person by name Professor Pramod Verma in IIM Ahmedabad. This is 1975 publication. We were trying to see how welfare officers, labor welfare officers, textile mills can be used to promote a small size family norm and look after the family welfare of employees. So it was an experiment, and then it resulted in a book form. And we were also working with managing population and family planning activities. So I was visiting Asia Pacific Development Center in Kuala Lumpur. My colleague Satya and I, we were trying to promote management of the family planning and health in clinic level, and then we wrote a book on it. And I think I can go on. I will
Right.
stop here. So all these books are books which had, I'm sure, some impact to good impact. Now, your last question, if you ask me, I feel quite good about my recent books, which I certainly have made an impact. These are bestsellers, which include Managers Who Make a Difference, which we wrote for IMA Golden Jubilee, and it is still the bestseller today in Penguin. Another one I wrote is Effective People, which again got reprinted very recently. And the third one is with Arvind Agarwal on Leaders in the Making, where we profile leaders of National HRD Network, 30 of the leaders, and so on. But in the professional angle, all the others, I think, matter in some way or the other. So it's very difficult to say. I think many of them, some of them could have done better because we have not popularized them. As you know, we are not very good in marketing our products. We hesitate quite a bit to talk about it.
I understand the pain, so because I've also tried to be an author and publish a book. And
Yes, I know you have seen your book. Yeah.
Understand the pain in publishing a book and marketing in this part of the world. And I'm sure most of yours are a bestseller. And thanks for all sharing your wisdom and insights through these
Quite
books.
a few.
Okay, so let's talk about the evolution of HR in India. You have seen a generation of decades of HR in India and HR professionals. You've been a mentor to countless of HR professionals. Your philosophy emphasizes continuous development, feedback-driven leadership, and the institutionalization of HR practices for organizational excellence. My question to you is, what are the core philosophies or values you believe every HR professional should adopt to succeed in the space of people management?
I think at this point of time, looking at the last 5 decades of experience with HR, I think the most important value that HR people should have is to speak the truth, to speak what they really mean, and to do what they say. I'll call it high level of integrity and high level of authenticity. I think trustworthiness, trust and trustworthiness is the most important value that HR people need to. Uh, if HR person makes promises which he or she cannot fulfill, that does the biggest damage to the entire HR profession. So this is one. Second thing is, I think respect for people. I think HR should learn to look at every human being as a person with potential. If somebody is not good at a given point of time, not doing right things at a given point of time, is not able to succeed or accomplish tasks at a given point of time, we should understand that is the consequence of a set of circumstances which led that person to behave that way or not measure up to your expectations. While you may not have tolerance in a given organizational settings for such people, but as a human being, we all need to have a lot of understanding. And even if you terminate a person, should respectfully terminate the person and say that we are not able to match up to you. You are a person, you are a great person. Can I be of some help to you in discovering your potential? Not just leave with the person in the lurch. I think it is one thing to just get rid of the person. It is another thing to get the person to look at life in a different kind of a perspective and so on. So I think the second point is I think you have to be a lot more human, and you must remember if you happen to be in a position to terminate somebody, I think it is God-given gift to you. But it is also a God-given gift for somebody else who is getting terminated. So I think that you are lucky, he is not luckier. So is it possible for you to adopt this kind of a value, valuing human beings? That is the second thing. Third thing I would want to say is that we are all purpose driven people. We have to have purpose. But sometimes we forget the original purpose and start mixing up the instruments we use and treat them as purpose. For example, KRAs are tools, KPAs are tools, targets are tools. The purpose is to serve somebody else. We forget the service and we only think at any cost KRAs, KPAs. I think HR people need to have a lot of flexibility. They should be able to think in a flexible way, constantly examine means end relationships, and reset targets, reorient themselves, and so on. So, participation as a value, I think, is very, very important. And openness is another value. Being able to, I think, it comes from number one. If you respect people, then you are willing to listen to them. And openness means openness to ideas, suggestions, and good suggestions can come from anywhere and so on. I can go on many of these. We normally have always conceptualized it as octopus values. I think I would strongly promote octopus values. And recently, I have had some videos which indicate I've added three more dimensions to octopus. I call it octoplaced. P is purpose. Another thing I added is L is learning, continuous learning. D is discipline. These are the three terms that also promote that somebody, you can't take liberty with systems. You also have to be disciplined so that you avoid the trouble of somebody has to tell you don't do this and things like that. So I think I'm a strong believer in octopus or octoplace. These are values very essential for all HR people.
Great. So I think bringing the human back into HR, I think, is
Yeah.
one of the need of the hour at this point of time. I also strongly resonate with you. So moving on, you have left and you are continuing to leave a big legacy in the space of HR and people management. You have actually institutionalized HRD in India. Now, looking into the future, wearing an astrologer's hat, what do you think? The HR landscape, of course, is evolving rapidly and now being threatened by AI and automation and digital technologies. My question to you is, how do you envision the future of HR And what should HR professionals focus on to remain relevant in this fast changing digital environment?
Envisioning the future of HR. That is what I. You have seen this Isha Yoga Center.
Yes, sir.
You know about
I
it,
know about it.
or Sri Shri's,
Ravish, Art of Living.
or Ramakrishna Mission.
Right.
Any of these missions. For Ramakrishna Mission is a different kind of a thing. If supposing instead of framing National HRD Network and Academy of HRD, I started a center and had a 300, 400 acres in some hilly region and started promoting like Isha Yoga Center, a HRD movement, what it would have been. That's not the model we followed. The model we followed is when we started National HRD Network, it is with a philosophy, it is with set of values. And the idea was soon it will move out of corporate sector and start looking at not-for-profit organizations and start treating the entire society as a customer. Now 40 years are over, but HRD network is nowhere near. It has moved to, like Bangalore chapter has done some marvelous things. They got in education, they got in NGOs, but it is a small part of the whole thing. So sometimes I keep wondering whether you need people like Sadhguru to start a yoga center or start a HRD Gurukul and disseminate it. My clear answer is no, because it lasts as long as Sadhguru lasts. After that, the whole thing goes off. Whereas I think, fortunately, Ramakrishna Mission stayed on because it is not one individual, it is a philosophy.
It's an institution.
I wish network has become like Ramakrishna Mission. It hasn't. Unfortunately, network has, in my view, not grown out of looking after itself. Somewhere down the line, if you spend a lot of your energies in looking after yourself and don't spend energies looking at the rest of the world, then you are limiting yourself. That is where my disappointment is. The HRD network or academy should have done a lot more in disseminating the philosophy. But people like me are in a conflict because if I start going back and saying that, look, this is what you need to do, then immediately they will say no. So we use a Ravi Mathai model. Ravi Mathai model, I keep saying, is start an institution, build up to a level, withdraw from it. Now I have withdrawn. In fact, 80% of HRD network members don't even know who is TV Rao. It's a news to them when somebody says he is the founder, president, etc., etc. But I was not there. It is. Now, I think it's a good model, but the bad part of it is it has not promoted the HR as a philosophy, HR as a value, and so on. Frankly, I don't have an answer to your question. How do we do it? I don't know. But if I say what is the future, I think HR has to be owned by everyone. That's why I now start saying you are the father of your HR, you are the mother of your HR. You have to look after yourself. And the job of NHRDN or AHRD or any HR professional is to inculcate this sense in you so that you take charge of your own kind of a growth, development, and you also take charge of the society. You build institutions. Everyone is an institution builder. I think that is how it should be. It should be. Is it possible? I think it all depends on the younger generation. If the younger generation is able to come up and adopt HR as a philosophy and then start disseminating this, okay, then I think we are in a, because today it is clear there is no world without HR, there is no business without HR, no government without HR, everything is HR. But it all depends on how do you direct your HR. You can direct HR to kill each other, or you can direct HR to build each other. I think we have a long way to go to use HR to build each other, but we are on the right direction. Forget about at the national level, but certainly at the organizational, NGOs, government, many of them are doing good work. So my vision of the future is I think people should take charge and we should create peace on earth. That is what it should be.
Right, sir. So, but in this digital environment where artificial intelligence, robotic, and other digital technologies are now taking over a lot of many administrative functions, Do you still think HR has a role to play and will survive in the long run?
Absolutely, HR has a lot of role to play. I think the more and more AI takes over the things which can be done by machines, the more and more it releases the time of people to invest in creative work, useful work, and work that matters as service. Where human touch is required, I think is something. A machine can be put in a hospital to take care of patients, but I think at the end of it, you still need a nurse and a doctor to come and then say a good word, take care of you, and things of that kind. So I think HR has a lot of future. I think AI is there to serve human cause. I don't say HR AI substitutes the human element. I think it supplements human element. That is the way we need to use. This apprehension we had when computers came into existence.
Right.
But computers can be great aids in in fact, you have written it in your own book. In your own book, you have talked about, I think, how HR can
Leverage technology.
leverage technology and things like that. I think.
Very reassuring to hear, sir, that HR, the AI and technologies will augment human capability, but will not
Absolutely.
replace human capability.
Yeah.
So, as we come to the end of this very interesting interview that I had with you, I think we had a very fascinating session with Dr. TV Rao. We've been privileged to hear about his pioneering journey in HRD, including the introduction of the HRD concept in India at LNT, the founding of the National HRD Network, the introduction of the 360-degree feedback, the HRD audit, and the HR scorecard that he started, which later on became global phenomenons, and the 60 odd books that he has published, sharing his wisdom and thoughts to us. He has shared timeless lessons on continuous learning, his philosophies on leadership, and inspiring insights into the future of HR in the era of AI, leaving us deeply moved by his reflections on mentoring and building a lasting legacy. What's truly remarkable is that Dr. Rao, a septuagenarian, continues to exhibit the energy, enthusiasm, and curiosity of a youngster. His infectious energy, relentless hard work, and appetite to continuously learn put all of us to shame and serve as a testament to a life dedicated to growth and contribution to the society. As we conclude, let me quote Dr. Rao himself, whose words resonate deeply. HR is not about managing people, it's about unleashing the potential of individuals to achieve organizational greatness while nurturing human dignity. Thank you, Dr. Rao, for sharing your valuable life journey and insights. And it's been our privilege and pleasure to be hosting this talk show and showcasing your life and legacy on the HR Guru episodes of GHRC Talk Show. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It's wonderful. It has been so wonderful.
Thank you very much,
Nice.
sir.